We've had so much wasted spending on our Australian Defence Force. Spending on the wrong things, not enough on the right things. Now another shocking example. The Australian newspaper has now reported that Defence spent $40 million of your money on two satellites. Two satellites it now doesn't know what to do with because the Starshot program they were bought for has been scrapped. These are satellites that were meant to give our Defence Forces space-based surveillance, right? That float in the sky, help them with positioning, watching, secure communications. In fact, the Chief Defence Scientist last year said these were critical. So critical, they've now been dumped into storage. That's where they're going. Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan of the Australian newspaper. Greg, I mean, you've had plenty to say on the show in your columns in the Australian about how badly we've equipped our armed forces with the wrong weapons, with weapons too late. How about this waste?
Well, Andrew, it's great to be with you as ever, but this is just another of the Keystone Cops pantomime folly of this government. Ed Husic, the Industry Minister, is a shockingly bad minister, even by the standards of the Albanese government. He just straight out abolished a $1.2 billion program for Australia to build and launch its own surveillance satellites, which would have been terrific for our military and had all kinds of other uses. At the same time, Defence bought for $350 million an already obsolete Sky drone, massively over-designed, which the Americans have just cancelled. They're not going to buy any more of them because the Iranians have shown they can shoot them down. Defence did this partly because it's underspending its budget, because there's such paralysis and confusion brought about by the Albanese government's inability to do anything except have reviews in Defence. So Defence will be a couple of $100 million short in its spend, and it's wasted $350 million on a bit of technology which is already obsolete. For that money alone, you could have kept the satellite program going, and then we would have had these satellites in space providing this terrific surveillance and getting us into space technology. Instead of which, Richard Marles goes overseas. He travels even more than Albanese. He loves this defence diplomacy, and he's made another U-Butte fabulous high-tech announcement with the Americans and the Brits about looking into artificial intelligence one day down off in the future, who knows when. Meanwhile, we've scrapped the one existing real program we actually had. Why did Husic scrap it? As far as we can tell, it's because it was a coalition program started before he came to office.
Greg, how can a program go from critical, according to the Chief Defence Scientist, last year to let's just chuck it in the the junk pile this year? I mean, I just don't get it. I totally don't get it.
Well, that's, Andrew, because you have this terrible disability of operating by reason and common sense. You know, that's got nothing to do with this government's approach to defence policy. It operates by fantasy and pantomime and pretend announcements. So every nation that has any serious capability manufactures and launches its own surveillance satellites. That's kind of entry level. You know, it's like when you finally earn a decent income and you buy your first luxury car, it's always a Beamer. You know, that's gets you into the club. So we decided to abolish this because Ed Husic couldn't bear to implement a coalition program. And instead, we're doing nothing now for space satellites, but we claim we're going to be a high-tech. We claim we're going to be building nuclear-powered submarines in a few years in Adelaide. We can't even build a surveillance satellite like half the countries on Earth can build. I mean, it's beyond a joke. It's beyond parody.
You're freaking me out.
And, you don't have to take
because I get so upset. I get so upset with this stuff. I mean, it's just a clown show. It has been for years.